We are all the way back and running here on the ESPN College Football YouTube channel. I am Matt Barrie. Welcome in. So happy to be back with you for another season. I can't remember what season this is, but it's been, I think, at least 3 or 4 seasons since we've been doing this. We started it with Sunday Bloody Sunday. We've evolved into the Matt Barrie Show presented by Allstate. So much to get to throughout the season. So happy to be back with you for another year. First of all, I moved. Those of you remember the old backdrop, the old studio. So we're a work in progress here. Construction underway here at the new Barrie household. It'll evolve throughout the season, just like some teams hope they will evolve after week 1 of what we saw yesterday in an absolutely crazy Saturday of college football. There are so many things I want to get to. Paul Feinbaum is going to join us, and we will break down all the action from Labor Day weekend. But I want to hit a couple of bullet points out of the gates on what was a marquee Saturday. And there were 3 games that everybody was focusing on, and rightfully so. You have LSU Clemson, the battle for Death Valley and the battle for Tigers. You had Florida State, Alabama, and you had Texas and Ohio State. And I'm going to start with Texas and Ohio State. And again, we're going to get into all this with Paul Feinbaum in a week 1 recap. But I believe, and I said this Thursday night during the broadcast of my Thursday night game, South Florida, Boise State. I believe we have committed, and we, the media, and I wasn't one of them because I thought it was ridiculous. The stuff and the things that were being said pregame about Arch Manning were some of the most ridiculous and absolutely irresponsible ways to treat a young man who is yet to start a college football game on the road and be the full-time starter. This isn't to say that Arch Manning is going to go on to be a great college quarterback, but going into the game, to anoint him as the number 1 overall pick, the Heisman Trophy favorite, the number 1 team in the country, to me is one of the most irresponsible things the media has ever done. He hadn't been a full-time starter. We hadn't been in a practice to see how things were going. And again, this isn't to say Arch isn't going to be great, because I think he will be a good football player. But if his name was Arch Davis, he wasn't getting any of the hype that he got going into the season. And for me, it put him in a position now where, based on yesterday's performance, what are people going to think? They built this kid up into a realm that was impossible to maintain. And now what are you going to do? Break him down? Because we and certain people had him in a spot where he's going to be the greatest college football player ever? Again, I think Sark's going to get him right, and I think Texas is going to be a really good football team. But to do that to Arch, I said it again Thursday, let the kid breathe. Let it take before you put this kid in a stratosphere we haven't seen in a long, long time. And I've been pulling for him since day 1 because I think he's good for college football. But my God, what he was faced to do against the defending national champions on the road in Columbus, to put that on him the way that it was, you could just see it all over his face after the game. And I think it was unfair. I'm going to talk about this with Paul in 2 seconds. I think Texas is going to be fine. They're really talented. But there was nowhere to go but down if you were Arch Manning, based on the unrealistic expectations that were placed upon him. And he came on in the second half, but Ohio State would get the win. I can't wait to break this down with Paul, because I just think it was absolutely unfair for that young man to deal with what he had to deal with. And I get it. People are going to say, well, he knows what it's like to be Manning. Yeah, it's a Manning. But again, if his name was Arch Davis, you'd be like, oh, Texas has a nice quarterback coming into the season. Quinn Ewers is off to the NFL. There's going to be a good football team in Austin again. It's not what he got. And so, we saw it yesterday, and we'll discuss it, and Paul was one of them. And I'll tell him to his face he was one of them, that the expectations were unfair. So that's check 1, Matt Barrie Show presented by Allstate. Check 2, Florida State, Alabama. Mike Norvell proves that you can build the team through the portal successfully if you get the right kind of guys. Tommy Castellanos was brilliant. That's not the problem. I think Florida State's going to be just fine. The problem resides in Tuscaloosa and Alabama. It's one thing to lose your season opener on the road. It's another to get beat like you did to a 2-10 team a year before and have to pick up the pieces. It's going to be loud for DeBoer. No one knows this more than Paul. They just don't look like the same Alabama. And That's going to be a problem if they don't get it right. And that's why I love the 12-team college football playoff, because there's time to fix it, just like Texas, there's time to fix it. But boy, I can't wait to get into Florida State and Alabama in a game that I was stunned. Alabama was 13.5-point favorites. Only guy to pick Florida State yesterday was the great Lee Corso. What a day for him. We'll get into that as well. And then lastly, LSU Clemson. I've always thought LSU was one of the more talented teams in the country. I thought maybe ranked 9th was a little bit low for them based on Garrett Nussmeier coming back. I knew they had a new offensive line, but Blake Baker, year 2, defensive coordinator, Harold Perkins back and healthy. I thought it was a great test for LSU to go on the road against a very talented Clemson team and show that they are going to be not only one of the teams to beat in the SEC, but for me, a legitimate national championship contender. And if you really watched that game, start to finish, Clemson got out to it. And then LSU, they drive down the field, they'd stub their toe a little bit, not have much to show for it. But in the end, LSU gets the win. I think LSU should be a top 4 team in the country. I really, really do. I'll get on my soapbox about preseason rankings, but those are some of the bullet points we're going to hit today. The unfair expectations of Arch Manning, what the hell's going on in Tuscaloosa, and now LSU needs to be considered one of the favorites as we embark on this new college football season. But
you want this, you got that. No way, watch them walk right past.